Om Shanti Benji.
Om Shanti Bhaiji.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you
Welcome.
so much. How is everyone? How was your day?
Ah, very good now.
Very good now.
All
Very good
well.
now.
Very well.
Uh,
And pleasure to have.
yes, definitely. The voice is not too good because I had a bit of a chest cold. So I hope I'll be able to speak for some time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm sure it will be okay. God
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your prayer will work wonders.
Prayer always work wonders. There's
Yeah.
magic.
Yes.
There's magic
Yes.
in good wishes
Yeah.
and prayers. Mhm.
और हमारे बेटा वैष्णवी साथ में है.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti Bitya, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. You know, you're sweet as your voice.
She is our technical genie.
Yeah. She's as sweet as her voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And despite her being very busy with her studies, because
Yeah.
she's joined university, she's just on the medical field, very busy,
Okay.
and take
All
out
right.
her time to help us. She's so
All
sweet.
right. Wonderful. Yes, wonderful. Right. My students are writing exam, unfortunately, so they won't be too, because they're writing in few days' time. So we are quite busy with preparing for the exam.
You should have told them that, a question of democracy is going to come out, so you should join the class. And they would have
Okay.
come.
Oh yeah, definitely. No,
Yes,
I'm
I
waiting.
believe it's one of their subjects, exam subject.
Yeah. No, I'm waiting for Vaishnavi to complete her medical studies. Then I'll start falling sick. Yeah. So I won't fall sick until she completes her studies.
But she has just started. You have to wait for years now.
No, I'll wait for 6 years.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I'll wait for 6 years. Yes, I'm 76 now. Yes, Betty, tell me.
No, you will not be sick.
Yeah, I
Please
know.
pray you won't be sick.
All right, good.
You'll keep healthy even beyond 6 years.
Yeah. In beyond 6 years, I'll be 82 years old then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We are sure you will join the club, of centenaires.
All right. Good. Yeah.
Because God
Wonderful.
needs you, and we
Yeah.
all need you. We need your experience. We need your knowledge. We need your good heart. We need you. The world needs you. So you're going to stay with us.
Yes, definitely. Even I'll stay beyond with you.
Oh, yes. In our eternal form.
Yes.
So true.
I'll be there. I'll be there by...
In that form, we all meet. We will all meet there.
Rest assured, whenever you call me, I'll be there.
But then when you are with us physically, it's different.
Yeah.
I put it on YouTube. Vaishnavi, you can just share some visualization. And then I'm going to send links to a few till Brother joins.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for choosing Night Sky.
Can you please unmute, Brother Gael? Okay.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, so brothers and sisters, good morning again good evening, I would say, for this monthly event with Professor Tural pertaining to the various aspects of law and to which extent they help us in day-to-day life. As you may have seen in the post, today we are going to talk about the democracy and the rule of law. So at first instance, I would like to thank the Brahma Kumari for ensuring that this event is conducted regularly. Thank you very much, Professor Tural, for being present and for always sharing with us some of your knowledge. And without any delay, I will just start by giving an insight of today's topic by referring, I would say, to the Constitution of our beloved Mauritius, which provides in the section 2 that Mauritius shall be a sovereign democratic state. And today's talk will give an idea of the meaning of democratic and its closer relationship with the rule of law. These two concepts are made up of key principles, doctrines, and theories that are designed to ensure a law-abiding country that has a balance between the needs of the state and the needs of its citizens. So as we will go through the talk, it's sure that we will have a better idea of the meaning and the implication of democracy through the various doctrines, such as the elected representative in the parliament, the supremacy of the parliament, the separation of powers, the judicial review. The true meaning of the rule of law, its legitimacy, its uniform application to everyone, and definitely by providing all these elements and to which extent we could incorporate spirituality as a means eventually to come up with a winning formula across the floor. But before leaving the floor to Professor Tural, I now request Sister Rupa to address us. Thank you.
Om Shanti. Good evening. Good evening to everyone, especially our dear brothers, Professor Tural, Brother Gael, and all the participants. Say hearty welcome to you to today's session. And of course, the topic denotes democracy, freedom of expression of our ideas, our rules and regulations that we feel good for us. And it is really something great because each individual has their own different thoughts, but we are all connected to one, the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, who is always there for us to guide us in every aspect of our life. It's the more we keep connected with our spirituality, our own real self, going to our inner qualities, the more we use them, the more we feel comfortable, happy, and some new ideas come that bring comfort to ourselves, Of course, when we say meditation, meditation meaning that's something positive that we bring in our life through our thoughts, our feelings, and that come in our relationship in every way. And say democratic stage now for us means being ourselves, not only physically, not bound to our habits or our traditional qualities, but to our inner self, the qualities of the soul, of our real qualities that help us to enjoy life and understand each and every one in a better way. So the more understanding between souls, between human beings, that bring peace, happiness, that the soul wants, that every human being wants. So, of course, with the blessing of the Supreme Father, the Almighty Authority, we are all here to share our ideas and to listen to new things that will enhance our life daily. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Thank you very much, Sister Rupa, for your blessing and all those sweet words. So without any delay, I will now leave the floor to Professor Turrell for his address.
Thank you very much, Brother Gail, for your very, very interesting and very specific focus on the topic of tonight is democracy and the rule of law. Secondly, I wish to thank Sister Rupa. Behenji, thank you so much for your kind blessing whenever we require to engage ourselves in meaningful and a fruitful and any exercise that we do, we need the exercise of the Supreme Personality, and then we also need the blessing of good people like you, who are you and Sister Rekha have initiated this program for every month, and I feel that we are learning a lot. It's an engagement of mutual relationship between myself and those good listeners who are in Mauritius and abroad. So I wish that we can share with them as much as possible to enhance ourselves, like Sister Rekha mentioned, our inner self, right? And we have to enhance our day-to-day lives with better thoughts, better feelings, better action, and better words. So the topic democracy and rule of law has been chosen, I think, quite appropriately in the present context of every democracy in the world. The question we ask ourselves, the initial definition of democracy, the way it started as a definition, the government of the people, by the people, for the people. How much does it stand? How does this philosophy, how does this ideal stand? Because by reading books and by giving definition in encyclopedias, right, we were not going to enhance ourselves. If we go inner self and we go inside us and critically examine what could be the right definition of any ideal, any philosophy, unless we apply our own critical self, we won't be able to come to the right definition. For me, these bookish definitions don't mean anything. Anything that is encyclopedia is simply an awareness, but not an enlightenment. It doesn't enlighten us. We take the biggest democracies in the world, right? What they are going through, how much of the realities they are facing that has the what you call the entire philosophy, the lofty ideals of democracy and rule of law are constantly being derogated. We are degenerated. We are put question to ourselves whether what was the initial idea of democracy. I'm not going into the deep root or the foundation or the source of democracy. What we have got in our constitution itself give us an idea. What Gael mentioned, he said that in our section 2 of our constitution is written, Mauritius is a sovereign democratic state. And this applies to any democracy in the whole world. All the Commonwealth countries have the same principle of looking at democracy in only the direction what its lofty ideals have dictated to us. All the Commonwealth countries, including Mauritius. But now, today's topic is not simply a definition of the old time. It's not something that we are acquainted with, but it is a question that we question ourselves. How do we describe democracy now? How it is being viewed now, not as it was then defined. When you look at how it was defined and how it is applied, right, does it make sense for us, law teachers, law students, those who apply the law, those who are legal professionals? How do they have to see democracy and rule of law? In that aspect, it's not question of knowing what was the old-time beaten definition, but we need to renew our thought process. We need to look at the new, a review, a renaissance, as we call it, into the new ideology. Because it has been tested in a long time, it has run through the course, what was ideal at that time, and what is it now? Do we have to review our definition of democracy in the sense that it is applied now, or do we have to go back to the definition what was initially initiated, what was it has written? This is the question we got to ask ourselves. Today's topic, democracy and rule of law, you can get the definition of rule of law, of democracy, its practices by the touch of a button on your computer. There is no need for any one of us to come and talk about democracy and rule of law. For me, the challenge is, what was the definition then? And what is the definition we should give now? Is there a difference that we need to rethink? Do we have to put a process anew, afresh, to see what is democracy? If we remain the passive observers or passive people who really accept things submissively, then we are not moving in any direction. We are not bringing any dynamism in our thought processes. We still remain as a stalemate and we stagnate as human beings. It's a big challenge. I'm just inviting that all of us in the new generation, let's relook whether we do have to apply democracy as a theology, as a principle, as a theory, as a norm. Do we have to apply as it was then? Or do we go by the trend as it is now? If it is as it is now, then we got to redefine democracy and rule of law. It's something that I'm trying to, how do I say, prompt you, inspire you, and give you some impetus to relook at things. By simply listening to lectures and talks without proper reflection on the realities, then it becomes bookish and becomes academic. We are here professionals. We are here to have our own subjective mind, and we judge ourselves, our action and our words from objective standards. How does objective standard, do we measure that objective standard? It is only by our inner consciousness, by our inner feelings, our innate potentials, competency to reach out the highest level of spirituality. It's only then we can measure the objective standard that we are looking at. By simply defining democracy and rule of law, we are simply looking at a classroom situation where students have joined law for the first time, to the reading of law for the first time. We are just inculcating them, showing them the basics of how to study law. But we are not like this. We are people with maturity, a sense of level of understanding. We have already reached a level of enlightenment whereby we can apply not our mental state, but our wisdom as well. We have to look at our emotional side as well. We have to look at our intellectual side as well. And then look at all these, what is happening throughout in the world in a very broader context, which will be judged in accordance with one yardstick. Does it satisfy the spiritual standard? The spiritual standard is it right or wrong? Is it good or evil? This is the standard we have to look at. The dilemma and the crossroad we are in right now is to see democracy at a crossroad. Is it going in the right direction as it was initially stated? Or is it going astray? Is it deviating from the main principle where Brother Gail has mentioned to us about our entrenched provisions in our Constitution? Section 13 to Section 16 has given us on the fundamental rights and freedom of individual in the democracy. Is it sustaining that? Is it upholding that? Is it giving support to these principles? Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, right? It cannot be a simple talk where we don't go deeper into details of reflection and to put our own objective standard from a spiritual point of view to see whether democracy is the right word to be used now, whether rule of law is the right word to be used now. There must be a different standard from which these two theories are being judged. These two theories are already being challenged. They have been already put into the crucifix, and they are being judged from different angle, from interpretation, not by the standard of rule of law, but the rule of man. We have to be very careful to that. We cannot jump to conclusion to what is democracy and what is rule of law, because we may be deviating from the main ideas, the main definitions, if we apply the modern standards. When you talk about, first of all, democracy, it's about, it is the supreme power that is vested in the people. It is a supreme power. That's the main concept of a democracy. Demos means people. Cracy means the governance, the rule. It is a rule that is already being provided by the Constitution to the people to elect their own representatives. So the power is vested in whom now? The power is vested in the people and not in the parliament, not in the representative that we are sending there. The decision that is made on social justice by the courts, by the different legal professionals, the definition of social justice, which is part of democracy. How is it judged? Is it by somebody sitting on a chair of a position? Or is it the proletariat, the people who are actually there to elect, to give those powers? The people in the parliament are there because they are representing us, the people, the proletariat, the citizens, the individuals, right? So the power should be theirs. In this connection, do we interpret, is there a connection in a modern democracy? Is there a connection between those being ruled and those who are ruling? We could simply say the definition of democracy is ruling by people or people for people. It is so beautifully said at certain time. Abraham Lincoln, long time ago, mentioned that. But in reality, what do we have? Are we ruling? Are we part of that process of ruling? It is government for the people, by the people, it says by the elected representatives who have been elected, and they are there in the parliament. I'm talking of all democratic states. Every democratic states are facing the same problem. I'm not going to mention any name. All democracy is now subject to reinterpretation, to a review, to a re-understanding of what is democracy. Because there is definitely no rule by the people. They are elected representatives supposed to be defending or creating or actually advocating, supporting the interests of the citizens. This is a question we need to get to ourselves to ask. So when we say the democracy, the first thing is that the government is vested with the power. The power is of people, right? We need to question that. In our new generation, the fourth generation standard of thinking, the objective way, the approach is that there is a need to a review, a renaissance of ideas to see that democracy is to be defined in the form that it was to be. Ideally, when you talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it is about dignity of human beings, whether it is men or women. That was said. All the economic and social rights of human beings, of the European, in Europe, in America, all have taken human rights as a foundation to move on anything that we talk about democracy. Otherwise, if it's not democracy, what is opposite of that is totalitarian state. When it is a totalitarian state, then it is not rule of law, not democracy, it is rule of man. Let's define this very clearly. And my objective here is not to carry out an academic exercise, but to prompt our good listeners to think that when we are talking of democracy, is this suiting the ideals, the philosophy, the norms that we had actually looked upon all the time as a cardinal points to dictate, to guide us, to show us the way. Unfortunately, in practice, all has been remained in the golden books of the Constitution. But it has not, it is gradually becoming degraded, degenerated, derogate, everything is taken off. So then we have to see. For me, if I have to pass on this message in a way that makes sense to my good people, right, I'll be very happy. But please, if it doesn't suit the vision in which I am talking, please forgive me for that. I submissively will withdraw what I'm saying, right? Very humbly withdraw from what I'm saying. But the idea of my knowledge, my experience, my understanding of what it had been to what normatively what it should be, now what it is not, that's something that we need to reconsider, to think. This is about democracy. It is a power vested in people. The characteristics obviously will come that Parliament is the supreme. Then we got separation of powers, in which the legislature will make the law, the executive will execute the laws, and then we have got the judiciary that will, which is the custodian of the law, will interpret the law. This is what is happening. Go through all the process again. Whether in the democracy law is being passed that is consistent to the moral, to the norms, that will protect, as Universal Declaration of Human Rights will say, right? Does it sustain? Does it protect? Does it give support to ideals of equality, of good governance, of respect to human beings? Is it happening? When we have got, people, we get them to power, they're supposed to look for the benefits of the whole country. Now, how is this happening or not happening is for you to judge. Then actually you will see what democracy means. Do we have separate, are the executives doing the job as they should be done, or do they do selectively? Or if the judge, the judiciary is supposed to be independent, is the judiciary applying judicial independence? That is not democracy. So definition is one thing, ideals is one thing, but application, when it is not conforming to the ideals, then that's not democracy. Then we come next to the rule of law. In the rule of law, what's happening? When you say that, first of all, what does the rule of law say? Law should be applied to all. There is no discrimination, no distinctive status to anyone. Look at its application. The rule of law, that's the first thing. It says rule of law. It doesn't say rule of man. Where does it say rule of law means rule of man? That's what Aristotle said. That when we allow, then we allow the rule of man, then we are living in the wild forest. So let's go by the definition of the old wise people, Aristotle. What does it say? Do we have rule of law? Do we have respect for individuals? Do we have meritocracy? Do you have equality, fairness in the process? Do we have institutions which we can trust? Can we predict the law? Law, whenever it is made, it should be, first of all, the law that is good. And how do we measure good? The good should be for the benefit of human beings, of the society. Any law that is made that is contrary to the norms and the society, then it is not a good law. We got to think about it. So in a way, we have got the institutions, the way it's being practiced, the process itself is called questioning. The process itself, it's the rules of natural justice dictates to us the process. In the rules of natural justice, it says that before you actually judge a person, before you actually come to a final point of decision making, at least hear the other side. Let the other party rebut, explain, give the opportunity for the other party to say, why did he do that? Why he didn't do that? That's what is being explained in our section 10 of our constitution, which we all say it is a question of fair trial. What happens? In a fair trial, how do we actually process? How are the proceedings? When you're looking at, there's an alleged accused of any criminal act. What are the processes of a fair trial? This is rule of law. Are we adhering to those provisions in the Constitution? We have got many of the human rights provision. There is right to life, freedom of expression, freedom of association. All these are actually entrenched in our Constitution. So for us, entrenchment of these provisions in the Constitution is one thing. But when its application is different, then how relevant will be this Constitution? Then the question is, do we change this Constitution to adapt to the new trends of what is happening? Then do we redefine the rule of law? Do we make it different now to suit the modern context? Or do we go back to the old principles to look at whether, now that we have already derogated from that, we have already got deviating from that, now we got to redefine. So we got to redefine the whole structure, the whole institution, the whole process, the practice itself should be different. So in that way, I feel that there is time for us to apply our mind. We are all intelligent intellectuals. We have to see that there is always that point of reflection, that, that a law that has been properly promulgated in all fairness, in all the processes, the parliament has taken every step to look at this law is promulgated, and it has followed the due process. And now, after the law has been passed, if it is democracy and rule of law, it should be equally enforced. There is no unequal, you have to both. You have to see that every person is subject to the same rule of law. It's equal treatment. It is enforced equally. And if it is enforced equally, is by whom and what institution? It should be adjudicated, right, in a institution that is independent. How do we ensure independence? We got judicial independence. We got institution that is independent. These are questions that have been raised all the time in the modern times. Then where is rule of law? Where is democracy? Law has been passed. Is it promulgated in a public manner with due process? Number two, is it equally enforced? And thirdly, is it being adjudicated by an independent institution? And then finally, it is that the law, the rule of law that is being enforced, it is consistent. That is, it was applied then, it is applied now, it will be applied in the future. That's consistent. If it was applied then, it's not applied now, it's not consistent. If there is any deviation in the application, then it is wrong. Unless with what you call social engineering, when the development of the law comes to a certain stage where it starts to stagnate. When we are forced through social thinking, engineering, we see that no, this law needs to be changed in order to meet the modern trends. And it suits everyone. It actually satisfies the needs of all the individuals and citizens. Then we can say, yes, this law has been equally, publicly promulgated, equally enforced, and it will be judged independently by institutions. This is rule of law that we need to look at. So democracy and rule of law, they are both very interchangeable. They are very inextricable. They are together all the time. And they are, whenever we talk of democracy, the rule of law, the policy, the norms come immediately in the forefront. Therefore, we cannot do one again without the other. There must always be a togetherness. There's always that sort of binding force between the two. So we have got, when we talk about rule of law, we must understand this principle. It ensures that the society is orderly and there is just behavior and fairness all over. That's rule of law. Secondly, there is a development of peaceful and equality in the society. There's peace. Everyone feels happy, secured. All the fundamental rights of the citizens have been preserved, have been actually looked into. They feel that they are very much comfortable about the entire process that is in front of them, and these are actually not questionable by any norms. This is consistent and applicable to all. And it is this what finally democracy in its true form, when it is vested, the power is vested in the people, right? And then we have got the rule of law in its own powerful state, in its own competency to be able to give justice and harmony in the society. Then if you see our country is happy, not our country, all Commonwealth state, which has got they are democratic states. If people are happy, they are feeling a harmony in the environment, there's peace, there's security, and the society is prosperous, then we'll say that, yes, this country is a democratic state. Otherwise, it's not. So my final word is that democracy in a simple definition is fine. It's rule of law in a simple definition is fine, but it's limited to only academic studies in the classroom. but we have to relook at it. We have to review. We have to rethink, give reflection, whether we have to give a new definition to democracy and rule of law, or do we maintain the earlier one? But if we have to maintain the earlier one, then we got to change our format of thinking, our way of doing things. It should be transformed automatically or to a greater extent. We have to revamp everything. Having said so, my good audience, I thank you all for listening to me, and perhaps I have stated my own personal views out of my experience that I have given to you all this with a lot of critical thinking, which I'm sure that it has given you much food for thought. And obviously, if there is anything that I said that may not be consistent to your ways of thinking, please forgive me. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Thank you very much, Professor. Indeed, you're again someone with much humility. I would say I don't think that someone has heard about it, because it's just about an exchange of opinion. And being an academic, we all know actually that it is made up of some analysis from different angles. And I'm very thankful to you for having assessed it from this perspective by going to the roots without, as you have quoted, I would say, doing a law lecture. So without any delay, we'll proceed with the question and answer session of the audience. So any point that you would like some further clarifications, or maybe just an opinion sharing about what has been said by Professor
Wonderful,
Duro.
wonderful, yes, wonderful.
So I can see that we didn't have any question on YouTube. So maybe from the audience connected to this meeting. So I guess that it was very clear, Professor. So maybe a note that I would like to share. I think that it's indeed essential to refer to the rights. You rightly pointed out that we are referring to the sovereignty. So I guess that it's good to point out, just for a reflection of everyone, that among the various elements of how stated by Professor, he referred to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So remember that it has inspired indeed a lot of countries of the Commonwealth, and we are not an exception to it. I know that with the prevailing situations, we might ask ourselves, are we really observing the rights? So, well, I guess it's another debate. And as Professor has said again, it's all about a question of interpretation, because when it comes in the hands of the judiciary, it's up to them to see what is to be done, when it is to be done, and how it is to be done. So, on that note, I will now leave the floor to Sister Reka for the meditation session, if you allow me to, Sister, or if you have something to add before your meditation session.
So I would like to, on behalf of Brahma Kumaris, thank Professor for this tableau that he has drawn for all of us watching this session, this program on the whole system of democracy and the rule of law. I believe the way Professor has presented all this fabric has become even clear to lay person who are not of that academic level or not a student of law. It has been made clear to everybody, and I'm thankful to that. And what I'm more thankful is how he has been able to prompt us to think about democracy, to think about the rule of law, to think about the result of all of that. I love the way he concluded his presentation by saying that how would we be able to assess or be able to evaluate that, yes, there's rule of law and there is democracy in the country. And he concluded by, these few words, are we all happy? Is there harmony? Is there peace? And that concludes the whole thing. And if we are not there yet, it means that we all have to work together. I'm happy that, you laid, Professor, a lot of emphasis on it's something made possible by a group of people. It's not something made by an individual. It is whole working together, coming together. Everyone, as you say, it's for the people and by the people. It's for all of us. The common interest, the common good. And how will the common good happen? The common interest of all be met? It's when everyone give their little thing. We can't just say, this is the work of people like Professor to think on, not our work, or it's the work of, NGOs, or it's the work of the government. It's the work, it's the little finger of everyone together, united, that is going to make this dream true, this dream of everybody living a healthy life, a happy life, living in harmony. It's everyone's dream. And as someone has rightly said, with every dream starts responsibilities. And it's the responsibility of each and every one. And we all can contribute in some way or the other, because we all have our own talents, our own knowledge, our own experience, whatever the age, whatever the race, whatever the color, the community we belong to. We all have something to contribute to make this beautiful dream come true of seeing democracy happening, seeing the rule of law taking place in our little island. And thank you, Professor, for prompting us to reflect and to realize our responsibility and to make us think over it. I'm very appreciative in the way you presented it. And because we are, time is running as usual, we will complete today's event with a short meditation. And I request Vaishnavi to play the video, which is going to guide us into this meditation to which I invite you.
Who am I? One of the things that happens to us as we pass through the various stages of life is we acquire labels from the world outside. From the moment of birth till death, from cradle to grave, we are given labels. Labels connected to gender, name, nationality, race, religion, profession, family status, position in an organization, and so on and so forth. And as we live in the world of labels, what tends to happen is that gradually we absorb those labels into our consciousness. And when that takes place, we become distant from our true inner and eternal identity. And this causes the soul to lose power. This causes us to lose control of the way we feel and brings us into emotional outbursts. This condition, which we may describe as spiritual pollution, is the root cause of any actions or behaviors which give sorrow to the self and sorrow to other people. And this in turn creates a chain reaction which influences the way other people behave. So the first step to spiritually depolluting my own consciousness is to explore the question, who am I? As you sit comfortably, just take a few moments to be with yourself and just allow the outside world to remain outside. Bring your attention in towards yourself. Bring your attention up to the center of your forehead. And here at the center of the forehead, picture a wonderful star of peaceful light. And this star of peaceful light in the center of your forehead, this is the star of peace. Picture this wonderful star radiating rays of peaceful energy in all four directions. And these rays of peace, they spread throughout my whole body, sending healing energy to every part of the body, sending healing energy to every part of the body. Hold this image of the beautiful star of peaceful light. This wonderful star of peace, this is me. This is I, the eternal soul. I am this living point of spiritual energy. I am eternal. I am light. I am non-physical. I am peace. This peace has always been inside me. This peace is my deepest, my truest, and my original state. I simply have to be aware. I am peaceful soul. And by maintaining this awareness, I naturally allow the property of peace to emerge from within myself once again. My mind enjoys being at peace. My mind enjoys being in peace. My mind enjoys the taste of peace. Let me stay with this feeling of peace and keep it with me at all times.
So spirituality helped me to realize myself and discover my inner strength, my inner peace, my inner joy. And when I start connecting at that level with others around me, we find a meeting point to work together for a world of peace and make democracy happen. So one of the ways to realize our dream and the dream of democracy, to find peaceful people around the planet living in harmony, healthy and happy, let us start by understanding and reconnecting to our inner self, our inner peace, our inner happiness, and share it as a united force, as an incredible force to see the change we want to see around us. So thank you, everybody, for joining us in this session. Infinite thanks to Professor. Despite his health, he has made it to be with us and talk for an hour with us. And I'm grateful for that. We have benefited a lot, and you've triggered us to think more and think deeply. Thank you, Brother Gael, for coordinating the whole event. Thank you to the technicians behind the scene, and thank you to the YouTubers and the Zoomers. And I'm sure there'll be many more watching the videos because it remains there on the YouTube, on our channel. I'm sure many others will benefit. Thank you so much. Wish you a very pleasant night, and we are going to meet again in a month's time, the last Thursday of every month. And the professor has been sharing with me over the phone that there'll be a beautiful forthcoming topic for next month, and it will be about conscience. Is that, Baiji? And its connection with, can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you. You're still muted. You're still muted.
Section, what we have got is the section on freedom of expression, association, freedom movement, right? So we have got freedom of conscience, section 11. Section 11 of our constitution has provided for freedom of conscience. Now, freedom of conscience, and I associated with with what you call excuse me, my health is not too good, right? And it's and judicial independence. Freedom of conscience. How do we have to reflect our thought process, our imagination, and our conscience together to make decisions, which you call what you call judicial independence. Decision making, when we are making any decision for the good of people, we need to have a freedom of conscience. We are going to define this according to our section 11 of our constitution.
Beautiful. That would be very interesting. And thank you for prompting us.
Yeah, good. And obviously it has got a lot of spiritual connotation too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Looking forward for the coming session next month.
Yeah. So
Wish you-
I'm sure that I'd like anyone can introduce, but because Gail is I meet him quite often, I can brief him on to introduce the topic. Gail, would that be okay?
I think it won't be an issue. We got to meet first, and then we'll find a way out.
He will make
because,
it.
Yeah, right, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a pleasant night.
Pleasant night. Om Shanti. Bye-bye.
Bye.